BizNetworkGuy here, and just wanting to have a little chat and do a video post rather than a particularly written one this week. And I was in a funny position this week because those of you who get my newsletter on a weekly basis will notice you haven't got this week so far. And part of the reason for that is it's a little bit of writer's block in some ways, and trying to work out what I want to talk about. I generally try and post 2 or 3 times a week, and that's actually quite difficult to do, to get that content that is relatively interesting to put on, that you think meets the qualities that you want to do. And this week was definitely a struggle. So this morning I woke up, I wasn't in a particularly good mood about anything, but I just started writing some notes, and I'm going to share a few with you. I mean, they're written on the screen as well, so if I look down you'll sort of understand why. And it was really a bit of a missive. It was just a few lines of thoughts that went down, and thinking about the situation pretty specifically I was in today, which was like not particularly motivated, and realistically just finding it difficult to get going, putting excuses in the way of actually starting. And that might be really good reasons, like emails you're reading or websites you're checking out to details and information. And it came back to me in the start of this process, was thinking about I was wasting my time. And I can't remember who, but somebody wrote something down that I was reading recently, which says, don't waste time on things that don't make money. And that is pretty critical when you're running a business. You need to be focused and directed in what you're doing. But at the same time, there are lots of things that support the back end of your business that need to be done. Especially when, with the likes of what I'm doing with BizNetworkGuy, when you're trying to generate and promote a web blog in a very, very competitive market, there's certain actions you have to do every day. And you need to read and you need to understand what's happening online, changes in search engines and algorithms and various exciting things like that. But what that can lead to is sort of procrastination, and that's a favourite phrase of a good mate of mine, Dom Goucher's, which he uses a fair bit on Preneurcast when you listen to the front end of that. And it's sort of, if you like, distractions in your day, and how it can stop you from making, you know, the really good progress you're looking to do. And that very, very specifically happened to me today, and I couldn't get started. And I knew there was one thing I needed to do, and it had it in my mind. The first thing I needed to do was ring a guy called Alan and have a chat with him. And I was finding all sorts of reasons, and they all seemed pretty good at the time, not to do it. But it was a difficult situation that I knew I had to break out of, because it's a bit of an emotional, mental zoning state you get into. And the funny thing was, when I did finally get around to ringing him, the day changed, everything changed, it all flowed from there, and I just had made that start and made that, you know, purposeful action step, if you like, to get my day going. And from there on in, it's been fantastic, and it's really swung through. This is towards the back end of the day, but I'm enjoying communicating with you guys as we speak at this stage. So anyway, the rest of the missive goes on, and I was looking at different elements and things that can delay you, things that can stop you doing what they can do. And one of the things is when you get bad news or you get knocked back for something, it always causes some level where you have to reset yourself and go again. And, you know, that can be difficult. It can, you know, I suppose depending on the scale of things, if it's a real big financial knockback you get, it can knock the wind out of you. And you've really got to try hard to put on your energetic face and go again. And another thing that can be equally difficult to deal with is no news. When you've put some kind of work into a project, you've maybe done a quotation, or you've put together some form of proposal, and you don't get any feedback. You know, it's almost as bad as being told you can't do it, because it's very, very difficult to progress from then. And the point about that is, if you do get into a position where you get some feedback and therefore get some activity going, that's almost like an endorphin for a business, because, you know, people sharing your desires or wishing to utilise your services for what you want to do is a real great generator and a motivator for you to kick on and really put the effort in to drive these things through. You know, I spend my life, another thing I was looking at was I can't remember who taught me this one, but it's a long, long time ago, that sales and marketing as a whole is like filling up a funnel. And the more you stick in the top, the more likely it is things are going to drop out the bottom. And, you know, look, it's not an exact science, the way these things work, the way conversions go. And certainly on the internet, it's a very, very tricky process to get yourself into a position that people can trust you and wish to buy from you. There's a lot of you know, in a short history of the internet, there's been a lot of different ways that people have tried to market and tried to generate leads or sales from their websites. And, You know, we'll all have seen these blogs which are mass loaded with advertising and AdSense and different things like that. And really, people aren't into that anymore. They're not going to get caught up by these sites with low content and high advertising that are specifically there to liberate you of your money. I don't think people particularly go for that anymore. Content is the king, we're always told. And lots of things are changing all the time that you probably need to be aware of, at least abreast of, if you like, to make sure that you're progressing in the best way you can. Coming back to the nothing happening bit, waiting for other people. It's, you know, you put your proposal in, you're waiting for the feedback. Now, you know, how long do you wait? And the reality is, you know, there's always a reasonable time. There are things that you need to consider, but you also need to have plan B in place. If things aren't going to happen with this option you're chasing, you know, you need to be looking at other solutions and other possibilities that are going to drive your business forward and make it happen in an easy way. Being nice to people is another thought I came up with today. It's not new. Once again, it's something that a lot of people talk about and I read about, especially with people like Gary Vaynerchuk, who I've talked about in previous posts, and also Michael Stelzner, who they eulogize about the idea that you should freely give information and freely give your time to people. And again, when you're talking about internet, you're talking about content. If you're doing a blog, or if you have a website that has a static piece of information on, yeah, you're giving that information to people, but you're not really communicating with people on a consistent basis. You're not telling people what you think, not necessarily every day, but say every week or every other week, and keeping in touch with people. And the idea is these days that the more you do keep in touch, the more you socially integrate with people, the better opportunities you give for yourself. One, to communicate what you're trying to sell, and what you're trying to do, but equally to answer people's issues and answer people's problems. A lot of people are afraid of social media and what it can do, and the fact that people actually might moan about what you're doing. Well, my view on that is you should probably look at it in a slightly different way, because actually what they're trying to do is communicate with you. If they tell you something bad, it gives you the opportunity to do something good to rectify that and bring something into space. And do you know what that leads to? Generally speaking, if you're being nice to people, you tend to get into relationships with people, and those relationships tend to last. And you know, that's what I really get off on, is having a relationship that develops over a period of time, keeping in touch with people, and you know, then touching with those people in different projects at different times over a period of time. And you know, you do something good for somebody, they tend to tell you somebody else about it. So these things can generate out. A lot of it's you know, certainly what I found with the internet side of things is there's very much a learning process that goes in. And one of the harder parts, you know, and I think this is sort of fairly general as well, is once you get over the initial excitement of a new project, always there's an element of grindstone to get it from conceptual idea through to successful project. And you have to go through this phase where you're doing a bit of a, you know, a treadmill approach to just doing the same right things every day, to get things done, to get a project through and get it working. And in some ways, I guess that's where I am now. You know, I don't know everything. I don't purport to know everything, but I know enough, and I know the right things I need to do, if not every day, but every week, to make sure that this thing progresses and gets somewhere. And it's a very, very difficult thing to do. And there are, I think that one of the things I was writing about is I was reminded at that point that there are 4 stages of learning, which I think most people know, but just to go over them. There's a point when you don't know anything about a subject and you understand you don't know anything about a subject, and that would be the point of what they call conscious incompetence or incompetence to deal with something. There then comes a stage of learning when you actually think you know something about it but you don't, which is unconscious incompetence. Like, you don't understand that you think you know it but you don't. And then there's some form of a tipping point where you know, I'm certainly at this end of it with the operations and works I'm doing, that you are consciously competent about the way you operate. I understand enough, I'm learning something all the time, but I actually physically do have to think about things all the time and make sure that I'm actioning these grindstone, if you like, because you have to think about them activities every day. And then there comes a stage of what you would call unconscious competence, i.e. you do something without thinking about it. And if you analogize that with learning to drive, I think most people would understand that when you get to the point where, you know, you've been driving for many, many years, you know, you really don't have to think about getting in a car and driving and moving around and going from A to B. So that's that. Coming back to it, conscious competence, you know, I reckon that's really, really the hardest bit. And with most projects, that's probably where most people fail, because they give up. They might be at that point where they're just about to get successful. They're just about to get to the point where people understand and about to sort of accept their level of understanding and knowledge of their subject, or the items they're about to sell. They're at the point where they're going to make a decision to buy. But people stop, they give up, and they go and do something else. So I think if there is a point to what I'm saying today, it's like, if you feel you're at that point in time, keep going, keep working on it, especially if it's something you love, it's something that's important to you. Make sure you put in that extra effort and kick on through, because I'm sure you'll be successful in the end. That's about it really for today. I will write down probably pretty much as it is and submit the details of what I've been thinking about in this statement and statement post, whatever. I'll put it on the site as well, so you've got sort of some written reference to what I'm writing about and thinking about. Hope you found some use in it. Bit of a, well, it's not a rant, but it's a bit of a ramble, should I say, today. Hope it's been of use. Good to talk to you. Catch up with you soon.